Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody. This is Hassan from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And once again, I am with Dr. Hafiz Ziaur Rahman. He's a chiropractor, originally from South Africa. Am I right? Thanks, Dr. Zia, for
That is
joining this
correct.
session.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's start our this session. Could you please introduce yourself briefly? Go ahead, Dr. Zia.
Sure. Alhamdulillah. All praises is to Allah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. And peace and salutations of Allah be upon the final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So my name is Ziaul Mustafa, and I have studied chiropractic, and I'm a graduate of the South African University, Durban University of Technology in South Africa, and I am a doctor in chiropractic. So, based a little more to introduce myself, I'm very passionate about chiropractic and its healing, or the research that has been done on how chiropractic can actually help each and every individual. So that is one of my greatest passions, and of course, trying to help individuals, whether it be students or the individual who has some sort of joint pain. I am willing to help each and every individual, in whichever community we are, as well as spreading and creating awareness to the world, um, the global population, the global citizenship of what chiropractic is all about. So I think for now, would that introduction suffice,
That's great.
or shall we? So I can go on. I can go on speaking, eh?
Yeah.
So you have to stop me.
Could you simplify and just in one liner for layman,
Deep.
because most of us will always think of orthopedic, right?
Okay.
So how
Okay.
you differentiate?
Okay. So I think, my philosophy when explaining any concept, is of course very much to understand and appreciate what is the background story, what is the information that relates to the current situation. So in order for me to explain to you what chiropractic is, and in order for me to define for you what chiropractic is, I would have to explain a little bit about the historical data that exists relating to chiropractic.
Yeah.
So, and after I explain the historical data of how chiropractic came to be what it is currently in 2021, then I can also give you a bit of my path to choosing chiropractic, I think, which would be very interesting for your listeners, based on the title that you've chosen, awareness, and also educating the young ones, who are looking towards alternative professions and alternative academics for them to take on and live a life of serving the community. So, and
Yeah.
please, brother, tell me, how much time do I have?
Uh, go ahead. I'm okay for around 30 minutes of session,
Okay, all right.
30 to
So,
40.
a quick background on the chiropractic profession. As I stated, the
Mm.
chiropractic profession is as old as healing is.
Mm.
So it's just that the name itself was only coined in around, I think, the 18th or 19th century, and now that's why I chose the word healing. And healing basically has been around well, since man could understand how it is that we touch can heal an individual, basically using your hands to heal
mm,
a patient. So chiropractic means healing by hands, and it's as old as Hippocrates himself. Hippocrates, they have found some research that Hippocrates used to do chiropractic manipulations. Well, I'm going to say in inverted commas, used to do some type of mobilization, which means, if, for example, if your shoulder is stuck, then they would try and move your shoulder by doing some sort of a yanking motion or pulling motion of the shoulder. So there is some research that shows that chiropractic, well, what we call today chiropractic, has been around for centuries. And then it progressed, and then we have the osteopathy, or the doctor
mm,
of osteopathy, who I, very much respect, also in terms of the research. And they were the individuals who took specializing in bone, and I say this in inverted commas, bone setting, because bone setting is sort of the layman word for bone, for what we do, like alignments and stuff. So I'm saying this, in layman terminology that you would find inverted commas quite often, right? So
mhm,
layman terminology in terms of explaining the history is that osteopaths then took over this mobilization, manipulation, healing by hand, setting the bone in place if it is not in place, things like this. And then there came a guy whose name is Palmer. And Palmer is the individual, or who we regard as the father of chiropractic, as the
mhm,
definition is today. And thereafter, there's a beautiful story to it, and I'm not going to say whether it's true or untrue. There's academic debate about that, and so the story goes that Dr. Palmer found an individual who was deaf, and being deaf, he tried to manipulate and adjust the cervical spine, which is where I'm pointing to right now. And in doing so, he found that the individual was able to hear again.
mm,
So this is quite a remarkable story, and this is the individual that then worked with the American, and this obviously took place in America, and then took worked with the American Medical Association and tried to come to some sort of rules and regulations, because there was a lot of besides, not, I would say, health politics, as is present today. There's politics in the health sector, health departments, health ministry, etc. So he then made this profession what it is, and his son, Palmer, I think it was David Palmer, his son also took this profession to another level. So basically, all the individuals that came after the founding father Palmer of chiropractic built on the profession in terms of technique, evidence-based medicine. Because I mean, straightforwardly, I would tell you, and this is a little bit of a sensitive thing, and you know me, brother Hasnain, that I like to take it head on. Is that some individuals say that chiropractors are pseudo scientists, meaning
mm.
false scientists, and thus I pointed out. Sorry, there's a helicopter here. I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry about that.
It's
So,
okay. Your voice is still hearable and loud.
all right, thank you.
Go ahead.
So the pseudoscience means false science,
Mm,
meaning it's not a real science. Now that's why I use the word evidence-based medicine, because EBM, in short, evidence-based
mm,
medicine, is what I personally practice. Right? There must be proof for what I do. If I cannot do anything that does not have proof that it will heal you, right? So
mm,
that is the definition of the chiropractic profession from a philosophical theoretical point of view. Now, to understand, also this is part of introduction, how I came to be a chiropractic doctor, uh, is that excuse me, is
yeah.
I am a sports individual,
Mm,
so Sports has been part of my life since as far back as I can remember. And not just any one particular sport. Whatever sport there was to play, I would definitely make an attempt, out of
Mm.
intense curiosity, tajassus, and
Yes.
trying to see what is out there in the world. Experiential knowledge is a great lesson to be learnt. So I
Mm.
experienced many, alhamdulillah, thank you, praise Allah, many sports that I've taken part in. And one of the favorite sports was soccer, or you also know it as football. So I
Yeah.
played football on a provincial level, was part of a club. I played club football, Division Two. I also played as captain of the club. So it was a huge part of my life. And
Mm.
I always wanted to become and you probably smile at this, is I always wanted to become a physiotherapist.
Mm.
So I say, my South African guys would, appreciate this a little bit more. I don't know if they in the live stream or not. I know it
Mm-hmm.
was, I gave them a bit of a short notice, but the
They can watch
physiotherapy.
the recording. They can watch the
Okay,
recording.
all right.
Yeah, and then
So in
yeah.
in South Africa, some individuals say that chiropractic doctors are just glorified physiotherapists, which
Mm.
is not true, in a sense where chiropractic, the philosophy of the profession, keeping in the within the definition, is that it is about the adjustment, the chiropractic technique. It is a
Mm.
chiropractic technique that stimulates and affects the neurophysiological parts of your body.
Mm.
So that's when I came across, is actually my school counselor, and this is for the young kids who's listening, that you must always interact and communicate with your guidance counselor. And they pointed out to me that it was, this is something that maybe could potentially or possibly interest you. So I started
Mm.
reading up about it. I met some doctors, like I went to see what they were doing. Again, this is an important point for those young listeners who are thinking what to do, because chiropractic is something, actually, I would say any skilled profession where you use your hands, you need to go and see what the man or the lady does. And when you do see what the man and lady does in their work every day of their life, Monday to Friday, all right, then you can appreciate, okay, I'm 16 years old, I'm 17 years old now, I know, I can see what I need to do. And then you choose it if it satisfies you.
Yeah.
So obviously, with my parents' blessings, with my parents' blessings, I chose to apply, and the application process, went smoothly, and that's how I came to start studying chiropractic.
Great. I think I don't want to cut when you were explaining all that.
No.
Um Somehow I was also footballer and I was captain of my team.
Okay,
And what
okay.
what you said, fairly, being a captain and have this passion to win every game. I don't want my team, any player to go down. So whenever there was an injury, I will be the first one rushing to that person and trying to motivate first and massage, sometimes spray, and make him back on, on his feet. So
Excellent.
somehow I was like similar like you, but I unfortunately I didn't follow that career. I started, computer science, and now I'm in e-learning or technology enhanced learning. So
It's
great, great.
destiny.
Yeah. So very nicely you have explained the history and the differences between chiropractic and orthopedic. So great. Can I change a bit of the session and ask you your primary education? And I just noticed your Hafiz also, mashallah, right?
Alhamdulillah,
Yeah,
alhamdulillah.
yeah. So could you start when you were doing this primary education? Were you aiming to be this chiropractor, or it just come in afterwards?
Okay. So, with regards to my whole schooling career, meaning primary education and secondary education, it was again through the will of Allah and through the blessings and the hard,
Mm,
sweat that my parents had, had done in order for me to actually go to, I can safely say that in my vicinity, in my neighborhood, it was one of the most highly, or I should say, one of the schools with the most quality, the most highest quality in terms of their curriculum. So,
mm,
I praise Allah for this. It's tuition fees in, I would say, Malaysia is much more expensive than back home. But of course,
mm,
also for us, it was a struggle. It was a real, struggle. So, this school, we call it Al Falah College, which means success
mm,
college. And I still speak to some of the individuals, the governing, the directors from the school. They are truly amazing in the work. I mean, if I'm telling you that this was in the 90s, and they're still around, you can see the years of experience that they have in actually having one of the best curriculums, I would say, in South Africa. So, um, the school itself, with had also, interestingly enough, and this ties in with the tahfiz, as the Malaysians would call it.
mm,
And so I did the hifz under my illustrious and humble father, Maulana Hafiz Qari Sheikh Faidur Rahman Rahimallah alayhi. He has passed on.
mm,
So he was also one of the teachers at the, specifically for the tahfiz and the hifz, memorizing the entire 30 chapters of the Quran.
mm,
And this was both lucky for me in a sense, as well as unlucky, because it's like you seeing your father at school the entire day,
yeah,
so you can't get up to any nonsense.
yes.
So, that for me, how why I'm highlighting this as my primary education is because for me it is and was, and will be, one of the most important aspects of education, whether you're at primary or secondary, is learning, your holy book,
Mm,
Al Quran. And with that, you'll understand everything: mathematics, science, physics, accounting, whatever you need to understand.
mm,
First, you need to understand the data of all this. You understand?
indeed.
So,
Yeah.
then going on to secondary school, also was lucky enough to graduate matriculation at Al Falah College in South Africa. And thereafter, the opportunities were there for us to apply. And it's also a lot of guidance, because we had a guidance counselor, as I mentioned before. And this guidance counselor was really, I still remember all these things, because these were men who cared. And I was saying, yeah, I was just thinking, when you were saying that you run to your player that was down on the field or injured in the field, that's
Mm.
because you have such a highly caring nature, right? Alhamdulillah, praise to Allah. So this individual, I still, he always took the needs and what is your likes and what are your dislikes,
Mm,
what's your hobbies, what's your interests. And this also in a bit with introduction, is reading is one of my hobbies. And I don't get the time now, but anyway, reading is definitely should be something that each and every individual does on a regular basis.
mm,
So he asked me, and I said, no, I'm not into numbers. I want to promote performance and health and wellness and well-being. And so he said, okay, you know what, there's physio, there's bio, there's biokineticist. So in Malaysia they don't have a biokineticist, or perhaps they do and I'm not aware of it. Or maybe it's a very rare profession. Perhaps we can also get an interview. So I can get somebody who you can interview as a biokineticist from South Africa. And so I chose
That would be great.
chiropractic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I chose chiropractic. So I wouldn't say, to answer your question, that I have had this sort of idea in my head, this idea in my head that I, what do you call it, that I am always wanted to be a chiropractic doctor. No, I would say that it was because of my passion for football and wanting to be in the performance health industry or health performance industry. My passion was always there. Thank Allah.
Yeah.
I can safely say that there's also a aspect of destiny, that destiny takes its course. Mind you, I I feel like I haven't shared this with anybody in a very a long time. Is that and there's a good friend of mine that's a great doctor in the Middle East, in Arabia. And at one stage we were, because chiropractic is one of the three most difficult courses to do in South Africa. So at one point, I think it was third year, and I don't know if he's listening, but he'd probably be laughing. At one point, we wanted to leave chiropractic, and we wanted to actually go into the defense force, as well as the what do you call it, the airplane
Air Force.
airlines business. Yeah.
Okay.
So at times, this is also for the youngsters. You at times you feel that you cannot manage, but you just need to push on and have faith in the Lord Almighty, Allah Azza wa Jal. And you have faith in the Creator, and what will happen in your life will happen for the best. That is my humble advice to answer the question: how do you know what you want to do? How do you know what you want to do? So I am happy that I am where I am today, with the blessings of my parents and Allah Almighty.
Yeah, that's great. I think you partially answer my next question, which I was going to ask. What kind of challenges you face reaching where you are now, and what would be your advice to juniors who are just going to start career?
All right, sure. So I think one of the most important aspects in terms of how you want to choose what you want to do, I'm going to say again, I need to explain a little bit of history. You'll probably be thinking, sheesh, this guy is a nerd of history.
Go ahead, go ahead.
so,
No worries.
so historically, we always have to appreciate what is the running force. What is not running force? What is the driving force of a state? What is the driving force of the community? Right. So we always need individuals from all walks of life to be doing everything where there is a gap. And this is my point. Where there is a gap, where there is something that needs to be done for the benefit of the community, it should be done. So, the most important realization that needs to come to a student, and let me even go as further as saying that not necessarily a student, but also I've studied, and I've had the good honor of studying with individuals who were already 35 years old when they started to study chiropractic. They wanted to do better for themselves. They wanted to change their profession. Some were managers of factories that had joined with me to study chiropractic. Some photographers, etc. So it's also, again, it's destiny.
Mm,
Now, in order for you to understand also, besides the point that I just made earlier, that you have to understand and appreciate what can you give back to society. That is the most
Great.
important goal that you need to always have in mind, is that
Mm-hmm.
whatever is there, whether it was schools. So I was part of the parents association, trying to advise school goers how to come back into school, because sometimes now with in South Africa with gangsterism and drugs, so it's an issue, and students are always left wasting time outside of school rather than being inside. So in saying that, we must appreciate that if you're going to be standing or sitting outside of school when you in fact actually supposed to be sitting inside school, you will not be a contributing member of society. What does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? Okay, you and I understand it, older individuals understand it, tax paying individuals understand it, but youngsters don't understand that they, at a point in life or for a couple of years of their life, they have to actually give the state money, and this money is basically used to make your infrastructure, your neighborhood, your healthcare, your children's education, to all this, right? So if you
Yeah.
become a contributing member of society, then you will have failed your society in in continuing success or the flow of success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is something important that students or people who want to be aware of how to become a chiropractor need to understand and appreciate. Now, going a little bit further and coming towards your question, is, as I mentioned before, one is the guidance counselor. You have to see, you have to speak. I notice, and on this, I'll say, I'm the child of the 80s. I'm still young, right? So I'll tell you that many individuals waste their time on cell phones and computers. Yes, you can Google what chiropractic is all about, but when you're hearing it from somebody, when somebody is explaining it to you, it is much better for you, right? Because you'll grasp it much easier. You'll grasp it. You'll have some experience in hearing the information relating to what you want to do for the rest of your life. So it's important for you to meet people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meet, go out, right? Don't think that you have to sit in the house with your PlayStation. I mean, I have
Yeah.
a PlayStation as well, right? I'm an
Mm.
avid gamer as well, right? The point the
Yeah,
point
it's
is
kind of a role model kind of thing, right? Yeah.
the point is, if you keep yourself away from meeting people, you won't know what you want to do in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get that information from your school guidance counselor. You can also visit the university that you feel that you are inclined or you want to study in.
Mm-hmm.
Visit the university. Then if you want to meet, for example, a traffic cop, or you want to
Mm-hmm.
become a traffic cop, you spend an hour with somebody who knows a traffic cop, or you go to the police station and you say, can I spend 30 minutes with you and see what do you do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's some simple acts like that. Obviously your parents are your first point of advice and authority and guidance. And thank Allah that both my parents always said that both information is important, the secular and the non-secular, meaning the religious and the knowledges that are pertaining to this world, the sciences, meaning biology, etc., mathematics. And then the religious is more on the spirituality and being a good individual and knowing the creator, etc., Allah Azza wa Jal. So my point is that if you can just follow what I have just advised the youth, or somebody who's trying to choose, or somebody who's looking for a change in the profession, etc., you need to appreciate that this capitalism and this love for money and greed should be taken away, and more about benefiting the community, your country's economy, your infrastructure, your healthcare facilities in your neighborhood and surrounds. So with this, I'm sure that each and every individual who has listened to this will make the correct decision in studying whatever they want to study, and hopefully they will be fully guided and destined to go on the path that is chosen for them by their Lord and Creator Allah Azza wa Jal.
Inshallah. That's great. That thanks for sharing all honestly, your tips and all that. May I ask you how technology is actually impacting this career? It's very skill based, right?
Um, so, in certain parts of the country, there
Mm-hmm.
are chiropractic doctors are recognized as primary healthcare practitioners. So that means we are on the same status as a general physician. So
Mm-hmm.
specifically, I can safely tell you that in America, sometimes an individual who believes in alternate care and not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the allopathic world. So, allopathic world means, just for the listeners, that individuals like pharmacists, like GPs, who give you drugs, who give you medication, right? And each and every one knows that with drugs and medication, there come side effects. So that patient who doesn't, like in America, who doesn't want to go to a GP because of fear of drug dependency, excuse me, so they will go to a chiropractor, for example, somebody with a flu. Now, please let me put a disclaimer. That does not mean that I believe in that pathway. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I do, as I said, believe in the science based, that evidence that has given chiropractic its stature today. And so for example, an individual with a flu, in my humble opinion, and this is my opinion, should definitely go to a GP. And if it is a bacterial, then they should be given some antibiotics. Some say no, they should fight it off themselves. But if an individual in America is seeking alternate care, then they would go to a chiropractor, right? So I don't want to, if I do explain, it'll be very long. But so they would go to a chiropractor. So chiropractors in those countries, it was a struggle, but they've been given permission, and to still treat patients within this pandemic environment. If I recall, South African chiropractors were not given. I stand to be corrected. If some of my South African colleagues are here, they can correct me. But yeah, South African chiropractors were not given that permission. I also do, if I just recall, I think it did change somewhere along the line, and then they were able to go back to clinic with full PPE, etc.
Mm-hmm.
With regards to technology, I noticed that many of the colleagues that I've spoken to, they've also started these telephonic conversations or telephonic consultations. So I genuinely believe in that form of advice, is that can be given over the telephone or over a video call. I think you have to go with the technological advancement, and this goes for any profession. You can't be stuck in your like 20 years ago or 25 years or 30 years ago. You have to move with how technology is moving, and I think majority, I can really strongly say that majority of the chiropractic doctors around the world are always
Mm-hmm.
looking to advance their relationship within the healthcare sector with the IT sector, be it applications or telephone consultations or anatomy or spine, what do you call it, anatomy or spine software, stuff like that. So I think in terms of that, I can safely say that yeah, we have been trying to keep over the water and not drowning, with the economic situation that the pandemic has actually affected each and every one of us. uh,
Yes.
you know so I think, yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. I think I can't agree more what you just now mentioned, that we have to adopt to the change what is current scenario, and that would be a great tip you just now shared, like come up with the app which could assist the anatomy of your organ, and then can guide patients how to do exercise, and sometime is a recording, whenever I go visit chiropractor, he may advise me to do like sitting position and all that, but once I left that clinic, I forget what and how. So
Yeah,
technology could
yeah,
assist us in that aspect, right? Okay.
definitely, definitely.
Moving on, for last 2 years, we are most of the time we are doing working from home, or doing online education, right? And I know your background. You were in different countries, in education sector or in university. How it is challenging to engage students, when we are moving away from face to face and coming up. How we are doing now,
No, pertinent question. This is a pertinent question. And the reason I would say it's a pertinent question, it also goes back to what I explained a little earlier on in terms of getting knowledge on how to choose what you want to do as a profession for the rest of your life, is that the interpersonal
Mm,
relationship that you need to create or network is something that is very important. So, similarly, I can safely tell you that both my students and myself, we both miss the real deal, if I can call it the real deal, where the lecturer is in the room, in the lecture theater with you,
mm,
lecturing you face to face, where you are sitting in the class. And if somebody is
mm.
sleeping, then I can throw a bucket of water on them, then tell them to wake up.
Yeah.
so, I think I can safely say, I've done a bit of a small survey, and most of my students, they are very, very, very much missing the real the real deal. So I would say my answer to your question is based on being in South Africa, based on being in Arabia, and based now here in Malaysia. I
Mm,
would say that the pandemic is the first of its kind that has hit the global countries or global world since 1918, right?
mhm,
So I think that I can actually bet on it that many of the universities students and faculty members would definitely say the same as I am saying, is that the real situation, face to face learning as compared to online teaching,
mm,
is definitely much better, than the online teaching. However, I suppose you can say it is a case to case basis depending on the profession itself, but a skilled profession
mhm,
such as chiropractic, I have to be frank with you and say it is extremely difficult to manage and teach a skill via face to face, via online teaching, right? Face to face is the best. So
agree. Yeah.
in simple terms, we as human beings have to be adapting to whatever is thrown at us. So we developed videos, and one form of how I lecture was that we developed videos with the help of some colleagues, and we basically started to have live sessions based on the videos. And we I found that to be helpful, and I did a survey with the students, and the feedback that I got was that, this is definitely 50% to 60 50 to 60% close to what we would experience now
Mm,
in the class itself, face to face. I can also safely say that from a theoretical point of view, they are, and this is now micro analysis. This is micro analysis, answering your question. There's a micro analysis part of answering your question. is that on a small scale, it also depends on the course, the subject, the module, and the
Mm.
title of what you are going to lecture. And I can say this is for any profession. So, for example, in one module, such as I lecture biomechanics, right? The science of human motion and the science of forces that interact with human motion. And I can safely tell you, that there are some topics that you can get away with lecturing online on the computer behind the PC, right? But when
Agree.
it comes to certain topics, for example, there's called GATE, GAIT, GATE. So
Mm-hmm.
this simply means, in layman's terms, that it's how people walk and what can affect them when they're walking or running or jogging or sprinting and cause pain. So I cannot teach you this over the computer.
Virtual environment. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to be in front of you and show you what muscle is affected, what bone is affected. This is why the person can't lift their leg and walk, right?
Mm.
So these are things, on a micro analytical scale that you have to appreciate. Also, dear sir, we also have to appreciate the student.
Mm.
They are the most important. Now their attention span is like any other student. I'm sure you remember, 30
Mm.
minutes into the class, our friend would be nudging us and saying, hey, wake up, wake up, the professor's walking towards our desk.
Yeah.
So, there's a
That's a
colleague of
challenge.
mine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a colleague of mine who makes sure that each and every student's camera is switched on,
Mm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, to make sure that, or sometime, they name randomly, like,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
pick up
yeah.
pick up from the list of students and randomly, and that person have to open camera, unmute, and answer the question. Yeah, so I agree with you. Like, skill
Correct.
based is no replacement of actual face to face or physical session. Virtual or technology could actually just assist us, right?
Sure.
Okay. Any final advice to people in your career,
I
or
think,
what
brother,
would be the future? What would be the future of this career?
my dear, good gentleman, brother,
Hmm.
I think we have to have session two. If I
Okay.
start on this topic, then we'll chat for another 1 hour. Wait from
Sure.
here, because we've spoken about history and current, but we haven't
Right.
spoken about the future. But in
Yes.
short, I think the future holds that, from a patient point of view,
Mm-hmm.
patients are very paranoid. Okay, each and every individual has become very paranoid. So we need to take that into focus, or not, I wouldn't say focus, but we need to take that into some consideration and try and up try and increase your knowledge of COVID. So, I tell my students that sometimes you'll see a question on COVID in your exam paper, right?
Mm.
So, as a chiropractor, because we believe that you heal from head to toe, you heal the entire body, right?
Mm.
So that's just a bit on philosophy of chiropractic. So we need to appreciate and understand and learn what is, the COVID. What is COVID? What does it do? How does it come about? What's the risks, minor risks, major risks? What are vaccines? Then there's also debates going for vaccine, against vaccine, etc., etc. And I must say over here, mind you, that each and every individual is entitled to have their own opinion on what their opinion is relating to vaccinations, and so on. So,
Mm.
in terms of the future, so patients have become uh, paranoid, but there's a bright side to that. Is that now you notice the entire world has been confined to this space. So
Mm.
that means that we are sitting for a higher percentage of time during the day, and working behind the PC, which means your nerves, your bone, and your muscle are definitely performing at a lower level, right?
mm,
So the main aspect is that you need to reset your spine, your bone, your
mm,
muscle, your nerves. So even in this, in the future, I can safely say that the coronavirus or the COVID is something that will be here for some years to come, and with that, so will back pain and neck pain, affect you while you're doing this sort of this sort of work from home, as they call it, the
mm.
new normal, right? So,
Yeah.
with that, chiropractic will always be osteopaths, physiotherapists, biochemists, the health sector, GPs, all the individuals in the health sector, they'll always be that space, even though there is things like quarantine and movement control orders and level 3 lockdowns, etc. you know
Mhm,
the individual's nerve and bone and muscle always is something that needs to be maintained at optimum level for you to function in such a way that you are doing the best you can do at your work and in your social life. So, I to close this, where there's a future, what's the future with chiropractic, bearing in mind the pandemic that we're in, etc. I think that now more than ever, I must say that you, or the human population, needs the chiropractor much more. So I'm sorry, guys, I'm not promoting anything here. I'm just stating it how I'm seeing it, right? I know it may
yeah.
sound like I'm promoting chiropractic and being biased, but I'm saying it like it is.
Mhm. I mean, everybody have right to promote their own career, so no worries. Go ahead. I mean, without underestimating all other professionals,
Of
because
course,
at
of
the end
course.
of the day, we all work together as a team to safeguard the level of health or well-being of society. So we can't work alone. So just to take you see there, you could see that Nurul Mustafa is there. Then we have Tayyib Muhammad there, and saying mashallah, my big brother Dr. Zia. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining, I really appreciate. And then we have Nur Mustafa Rahman, legend Doc Z. Right? Okay. So it was pleasure, Dr. Zia, for having you live. And maybe, as you mentioned, we could have round two for future. And
Sure,
I
sure.
learned myself personally a lot, and I really appreciate. And those who are watching now live, if you have any question, just post in the live chat, and we, Dr. Zia, can take that and advise you. And those who will be watching recording of these sessions, feel free to post comments. And I have this privilege, Brother Zia is accessible with one message.
Only for
So I
you,
will.
only for you.
Yeah, so I may even, contact him and ask him that there is a comment on our video and how we could address. Or maybe we can address in our version two of interview session, right? And
Sure.
just to share, this is on my YouTube channel, a series of interview sessions. And feel free to. I have interviewed Dr. Sufyan. Is if I recall, cellular biologist, and he's a medical educationist, and this is his profile. He's in Australia, and then I have interviewed Dr. Raza and few others. So feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So whenever I will be live next time, so that will you will get the alert. And once again, thanks, Dr. Zia. Stay safe wherever you are. Just be here, and let me play the countdown to end the session.